welcome Jason to Metallarium Pages. It's a great pleasure to talk with you about Pyscroptic, this new album, Divine Council, and more things relating to the extreme metal world, perhaps the metal world in general. So how have you been during these crazy times? We are starting a pandemic 2 years ago. You're still ago, a war in Europe now, and perhaps who knows what happened the next couple years? Alien invasion, the machine takes the power. So no, who knows what happened really? We're living in a crazy times now.
Yeah, well, let's hope we get a little bit of a break for a while so we can actually go out on the road and play some fucking music for a while.
yeah. So I've been hearing this new Divine Council for a while because I received the promo a few weeks ago, and I saw that your music is still intact. It's still intact. You have the sound, you have the music since the band started in 2001 with the Island of Disenchantment. It's more technical than the previous ones. But how do you see now this new album compared to the old stuff in Pyscroptic?
I think with all our albums, it's just the natural progression of where it's moving. I mean, if you listen to the new album compared to, say Scepter of the Ancients or Symbols of Failure or something, it's a very, different sound, and we sound like quite a different band. But if you listen to all the albums sort of in the order that they were written and recorded, I think you can just sort of hear the natural progression of it, really. I mean, I guess we've never tried to just kind of keep sticking to exactly the same formula over and over and over. We like to experiment with things and throw in new elements, which, as you would have heard, we've definitely done again on this album. So we just try to keep it interesting for ourselves, keep it enjoyable. So yeah.
Okay. Tom, you entered Pyscroptic in 2005 when the band released two full records, the Isle of Disenchantment and the Scepter of the Ancients, but you entered to record a Symbols of Failure. I ask this question.
Yeah.
So, do you saw the band outside as outside fan from the band, but now you are in the band? So how many things changed to be outside and now inside?
Well, I grew up with all the guys from Pyscroptic. Cam, the original bass player, was sort of my best mate growing up. So I was kind of I wasn't in the band, but I used to be around the band a lot. I'd be hanging out with them when they were rehearsing. I'd go when they were playing shows and stuff like that. So I suppose the biggest thing for me was going from just being a close observer, I guess, to actually being the one up on the stage with them and having the mic. It was a weird thing to begin with, because I did a tour in 2004 as a session vocalist for them, which, I guess that's sort of where it all started for me. But I mean, that was a really scary point in my career, I guess, because I'd never sort of done shows outside my hometown before. And then next thing I've got my friends saying, look, we're taking you to sing for us in Europe, and we did a big tour over there with Dismember, and that was sort of my first experience outside my little island where I live. So yeah, I mean, it was, I suppose there was a bit of a transition thing, but it's, the journey's just been amazing, since we were young men to now in our 40s, and still keeping this dream alive. It's awesome.
Okay. One aspect that I try to relate when you enter the band and record Symbols of Failure is that you release this album with Neurotic Records, and I hear a lot of bad things about this label, because I spoke with Spawn of Possession, and all these bands complain about Neurotic Records at that time. So do you have these kind of troubles with them at that time too?
Well, to be honest, we're actually still quite close friends with the label manager. So, I mean, at the time, I think the label was going through probably some tough times. So we probably weren't getting the promotion and stuff that we would have liked to have got. But then we kind of just got the offer from Nuclear Blast, and we only had a 1 contract deal with them, so we just sort of moved on. But to say that we had bad experiences with Neurotic, I wouldn't say at all. You know, I mean, like say whenever we go to Europe and stuff, Rud, their label manager, comes and hangs out with us, and you know, we're still close friends with him. So, you know, yeah, there's definitely no sort of ill feelings between us and them. So no. We've been quite lucky. We've never really had any problems with any labels in the past.
Okay. So you started, bueno, the band started with signing with by themselves, released their first album. Then the second album was released by the Unique Leader. Then again, Neurotic. Then from then Nuclear Blast. That's amazing for that. And then you changed for the Prosthetic Records too. So how do you see this accomplished from Pyscroptic? Because all the time Pyscroptic is in the biggest labels, Unique Leaders, Nuclear Blast, Prosthetic Record. Is the big league into labels around the world.
Yeah, I mean, it's been a great thing. I mean, I remember when we first signed with Nuclear Blast, that was kind of the point for us where we were like, shit, you know, this is this is actually looking like we could actually make something out of this band. You know, I mean, Nuclear Blast was always the label when we were kids. You know, they had the greatest death metal bands of the, you know, early 90s on them, and so we were kind of a bit like, fuck, you know, how's this happen? We're just a little band from, you know, bottom of Australia, pretty much on little island no one's heard of, and you know, we sort of stepped up into the big league. And I mean, Nuclear Blast was a really good experience for us, being signed with them for a couple of albums. I mean, I think it really helped boost our career and sort of, you know, put us out to a broader audience. And then the thing we found with them though was that we were very much one of the smaller bands on a really big roster. So, you know, you do tend to sort of get lost, you know, in amongst the really big league stuff. You know, you got your bands like Dimmu Borgir and, you know, some really big shit on there. So we made the conscious decision to actually step back to a smaller label, which was Prosthetic. So we were hopefully, the plan that was that we'd be sort of, you know, one of the biggest sort of bands on the slightly smaller label. So you do get a lot more priority from the label when it comes to promotion and all the rest of it. So we've had a really good experience so far with Prosthetic. We're releasing our 3rd album with them now, and I can't see us jumping around labels anymore. I think we've really sort of found our home there. You know, all the staff there are great. So yeah, I mean, we're absolutely stoked.
Okay. So one thing that I saw into your new album is that you changed select. I think now the greatest artists now, or they are like the star nowadays, Eliran Cantor for the new album, for the cover art. So what do you select the artist, or perhaps the label has to do with to pick these artists? Because now this artist has a lot of productions doing for Testament, Creator. I don't know how many months, but that's a lot of bands into
he's doing
all the time. All the times are in their social media. I saw three or four cover arts for a lot of bands around the world.
Yeah, definitely. That was actually Dave, our drummer. He made the selection to use him with it. I'd been sort of following him on social media and looking at all his works. I mean, his work's absolutely fucking amazing. So when Dave said to me he'd had a conversation with him and, you know, and it looked like he was going to be the one doing the front cover, I mean, I was really happy with that decision. You know, he's a guy that you don't really have to give him a concept of what you want. You don't have to give him a full like visual guideline. You know, this is what we want, this is what we expect. He's an artist that we gave him lyrics, we gave him a copy of some of the songs to listen to, and we're like, you know, check it all out and, you know, form your own concept, form your own visual, and you know, go with that. And we've done that in the past with other artists doing our covers, and we find that yields the best results when you get an artist like that. You do give them free rein to do the work themselves. And I mean, the work that Ellen came back with was just amazing.
Okay. And for you, how many things changed for you since the first time you recorded an album by Pyscroptic with this new one? Because your voice is evolved, you have more hardcore stuff into there. So how do you see? Did you use into this new album so more techniques talking about the growing parts, this kind of stuff?
No, I pretty much stepped into this one the same way I do all of them, in the way that once we get in the studio, I get in the studio with Joe, you know, he records all the vocals, you know. I mean, once I start working with him and we start trying a few different things and seeing what works and seeing what we both like, it just kind of naturally happens to, you know, to however the actual sound of the vocals comes out. So, and yeah, I mean, it's really good working with Joe, because I think he really knows how he wants the songs to sound. So yeah, he does generally sort of guide me to, you know, to what's going to work. So yeah, I mean, it's just the natural progression of things, really.
Okay. And now, how do you see the a lot of bands that David has for to record to live, because he plays now in Abramelin and Damenta, Werewolves, a lot of bands. And I spoke last year with Sam Bean from the Werewolves, and he told me that Dave is a really a busy drummer in Australia, because has a lot of bands, has he teach lessons for drum kids, so a lot of stuff. Yeah. So how do you see this, his time to record new album, to play in gigs with Pyscroptic, with a huge busy man?
I mean, we're lucky in the way that with Pyscroptic, we've always, you know, his main focus is Pyscroptic. So he, you know, we always have priority on his time, which is good. But I mean, yeah, I don't know how he manages to you know, work on so many different albums and stuff at the same time, but he's just an absolute freak. You know, he's a guy that he's up at 4:30 every morning, you know, and he does his drum stuff for a few hours a day. He goes running 10 kilometers every day. He manages to run a business. You know, he's just one of those freaks. You know, he's awesome with his time management and prioritizing what he needs to. And yeah, I mean, yeah, he puts the rest of us to shame a bit when it comes to things.
Okay. So how do you feel about to be in one of the biggest stones into the technical death metal around the world? Because when I hear the technical death metal and the starts of 2000, you and I think took up Origin and two couples more bands are releasing their first album and start the beginning. And I think a lot of bands now is copy your essence, your methods, your music.
Yeah, well, I suppose it's something I'd never really thought of. I mean, we just sort of do what we do. And I mean, if we are influencing younger bands to, you know, go down a certain line of, you know, taking inspiration from what we do, I mean, that's awesome. But yeah, it's something I'd never really thought of, actually, of us being sort of one of the influential bands in the scene, I guess.
Yeah.
But I mean, it's a really cool thing if that's happening. So yeah.
Okay. Yeah, because when I hear in this new album the guitar from Joe, it's very I think that he influenced the music from Decapitated into this new album, because he has this kind of stuff.
It's always been a funny one with us and Decapitated, because I think like both bands started out very young. Both bands were doing really full on tech stuff, you know, in the early days of it, and both bands have very much, you know, progressed a long way from where they began. And you know, I think of all the bands out there, the only band that we ever actually get sort of compared to is Decapitated, because people see our careers as sort of moving in this same sort of way, which it's really cool. I mean, I really like checking it out when they do release new albums, because I think, oh shit, well, which direction are they taking this time? And quite often, I mean, they've just released an album, we've got ours on the way, and checking out what they've done keeping in mind what we've got happening on our album, it's kind of like there's this strange similarity, even though like during the writing process, neither of us had heard anything that the other one had done, but it's sort of still following in that same progression, which it's always been a weird thing with us and them, but it's really cool. They're a great band.
Okay, yeah, these are good. But with this, as you can see, it's a very common thing into these comparisons, because I'm a fan of both bands, also Decapitated and also Pyscroptic. And as you can see, Symbol of Failure is the first start when the band with Pyscroptic take a clean weight into the guitar parts, into the compared to the previous ones. But if we try to comparison with the Organic Hallucinosis from Decapitated, it's the same year, 2006 of that release into the. So how do you see this? Well, who start first for you? This technical stuff, especially with groovy and hardcore parts, especially in boys.
Yeah, it's because it's funny, because I mean when they did Organic Hallucinosis, they sort of shifted their vocal style a lot as well from doing your sort of stereotypical thing too. So, and that was that album to me. I did sort of draw a lot of inspiration from that, because we'd been sort of talking about, shifting the vocals to more of that sort of, I mean, I'd say almost sort of old school sort of thing, like your Max Cavalera, Phil Anselmo, that sort of type of vocal, more than your traditional sort of, I suppose, Cannibal Corpse style of vocal, and then seeing that they I suppose took the leap just before we did and kind of tried it, which was a really cool thing. But yeah, and then I sort of, I guess I followed suit a little bit with it.
Okay. As you work one day in the future, how do you see the promotion of the new album, of this Divine Council?
Well, I hope it does really well. We've spent a lot of time working on it, because we haven't been able to tour for quite a few years, so there has been a lot of time spent on this album. I mean, we're all absolutely wrapped with how it's come out, so we're really hoping it does well, and we're hoping that we can get a lot of touring happening off it next year again. We want to try and get back to some sort of normality with this music business type thing.
Okay. And what are your main influences, talking about the vocal parts, the growl parts that you did from in all your career? Who was the vocalist in extreme metal world that influenced you to say, I wanna do this for all my time live?
I mean, I was like a lot of people of my age, I suppose. I was influenced by bands like Morbid Angel, Incantation, Macabre was a really big one when I was young. All that stuff, Obituary, your stereotypical early 90s death metal was what I was all about. Early Sepultura was a really big one for me. I always loved the way Max Cavalera sounded, and Phil Anselmo from Pantera, Far Beyond Driven, and all those sort of albums. So I guess it was that real early 90s stuff. And I always really loved a vocalist I always really loved, and still do to this day, is Matty Kaki from Dismember. He's got those really just manic, wild vocals, and LG from Entombed was very much the same as well. I like vocals where it sounds like a crazy man, not like a fucking pig getting a red hot poker stuck in their ass or something like that. I'm more with that sort of traditional early 90s sort of style of stuff.
Mm-hmm. Okay. So now returning to this Divine Council. So which songs for you the preferred one to play live? Which songs bring you memories when these songs played by you or by old band? Perhaps it's a Fool's Errand, perhaps it's Enslavement, and a great one, when I hear a Prophet's Council, which hears with the acoustic guitar, this kind of stuff. Is very great one.
There's a really good mix of songs on this album. I do think one of the ones that's going to be the best one to play live is going to be Rend Asunder.
Mhm.
I think that's going to be sort of one of those really good sort of just charging mosh pit sort of songs. So we've been rehearsing that up to hopefully we've got some shows booked in Australia in the coming months. So we're hoping to sort of add that to the live set. And we're still sort of going through trying to work out which songs we do want to actually do live. We're talking about Enslavement being probably one that's a bit of a staple. You know, it's a bit different with the orchestrations and stuff. But yeah, we haven't made a solid decision of which songs are going to be sort of, you know, a regular thing in our set list, which that's always the hardest thing once you know, getting ready to tour it, you know, on a new album, because you think, well, we got to add enough songs off the new album in there because that's what you're sort of supporting. But it's like when you get to the point where you got such a big back catalog like we do, it's like, what of the old songs are we going to cut out, you know? And yeah, we do struggle with working on the set list sometimes, and that's one of the tasks that we're going to have to start tackling over the next month.
Mm. Okay. So the next question goes at the full discography, talking about this Pyscroptic, because, well, as you know, the fans, when a band released their first, second, or third, or perhaps the fourth album, for the fans, for the reviewers, for a lot of people, these releases are the best words from the Pyscroptic, according to the fans, this kind of stuff.
Yeah.
And I think you think like that because you're a fan musician. You think that the first albums from Sepultura, from Morbid Angel, from Obituary are the great ones compared to the last ones. So talking better, but that counterproductive thing, according to this, is usually the last album for the band is the best word to the date. So relating this aspect, how do you think about these aspects of the fans, of you thinking about this matter? And perhaps do you have a preferred one? Perhaps it's Orbsome, perhaps it's, who knows, the Inherent Repression, who knows, perhaps we have a different one that no one knows about it.
I mean, I'm happy with everything we've ever done. You know, I mean, to us, each album is, you know, that's the pinnacle of that time, the best album that we're capable of doing. And so I love every album we've done. There's no points in our career where, you know, we look back at it and go, shit, that was, you know, that album came out terrible or whatever. You know, I mean, I love them all for different reasons. I mean, I definitely like the direction that we've started taking from As the Kingdom Drowns and Divine Council, but whether or not that's just because it's new and fresh to us, you know, and we're at such a late point in our career. But I mean, I still really love, you know, one of my favorite songs that we've ever written is the song Observant, which, you know, to this day we still play basically on every live show. But as for us probably writing music like that sort of song now, I don't think it's something that we would pursue, you know, on new albums, that style of thing. But, you know, yeah, it's kind of a hard one. I don't think I could pinpoint what our favorite, or, you know, what my favorite album or point in our career would be, because I'm very proud of everything we've done to this point.
Okay. So now, I think last year or this year, I spoke with Joe, who was in charge about the direct merch, the store in Australia, direct merch.
That's Dave.
Dave, yeah, I spoke with Dave, and he said I bought from this his store, direct merch, and I spoke with him about the possibility. And I if I remember well, he told me that Pyscroptic was a probably tour in 2019 or 2020 here in Latin America, and I think South America. So this tour will going on for the future, or perhaps you reschedule again?
Well, we're hoping at this stage there's no firm dates for us to be out there, but we are sort of hoping, like, South America is a place that we've never been and we've always wanted to. We've had a few like tentative tour bookings over the years that have all fallen through due to scheduling or finances or whatever, but we are really hoping that we can get out there probably next year, but at this stage, you know, all the booking agents and staff they're starting to work hard on, you know, getting all the touring planned out for sort of the next couple of years for the band in support of the release. So with it, yeah, to answer your question, with any luck, we should be there next year if all goes to plan.
Okay. So now talking about this aspect, and what are the future plans that the band has for this Divine Concert? Perhaps a new touring upcoming in just in Australia and New Zealand, and perhaps who knows, more videos upcoming. Who knows?
Yeah, well, we're at this stage, everything's getting booked now that I suppose now that people have got more confidence that travel and concerts are going to be able to go ahead easily. So I mean, we haven't got anything firm booked now, apart from just a couple of like spot release shows around Australia, not even any full Australian tours, but we're hoping that by the end of the year we should be at least doing an Australian tour. And then next year we really want to be back out in, you know, America, Europe, Australia, you know, all the major markets again, and hopefully some spots around Asia and stuff like that. So we're just hoping we can start keeping busy again.
Okay. So as I said in the first question, we will talk about other matters into the extreme metal world or metal in general. So how do you see now the digital platforms? Because now it's a great tool to hear new music around the world, but at the same time, this new tool bring us just easy people to hear with singles. This new people doesn't hear one full album, just singles and pick and I don't know why this new generation prefers to select 1, 2, 3 songs and do the play. It's very for me it's very weird, because I'm old guy, so I prefer to hear a whole full album, and I bought my copies, and I bought my copy from the last album from you, so I prefer to hear that. So I don't like the digital platforms. So for you, what is your opinion about now the digital platforms? Is good or is bad for the music? And what do you think why the albums doesn't have the same impact compared to the 60s, 70s, 80s, and 90s?
Well, I mean, the streaming platforms, I have been asked this question a few times over the years, sort of what my thoughts are on it with, you know, Spotify and YouTube and all that stuff. And I've got mixed feelings about it, because, I mean, for one, like you say, kids are only just checking out one song. So, and you can look at it on a band's list of songs that there's always just a couple songs that have got like 10 times more streams than what the rest do, because you can tell that people are just picking and choosing, you know, 1 or 2 songs to listen to. So from that point, I don't like it, because I'm like you, I'm an older dude, and I like to listen to an album from start to finish, you know, put a record on and, you know, crack a beer or whatever and sit down and enjoy it, you know. And that's the way I'd rather listen to music. But in saying that, with the streaming platforms, it does make it easier for people to discover your band, because, you know, Spotify has the suggested bands or whatever, or, you know, it throws a song of a different band into your playlist and all that stuff. So it does expose you to more people that maybe wouldn't have checked you out before or wouldn't have discovered you. And I know YouTube's the same, where it puts the little suggested things down the side. I know I go down rabbit holes and, you know, listening to old stuff that I haven't listened to for years, just simply because there's a link put in front of me. And so from that point of view, I think it's good, but the streaming platforms definitely don't help bands financially. I mean, you, as a band member, you look at your royalty statement from streaming and it's just dog shit, you know.
Yeah.
You might have collectively over your whole back catalog, you might have had, you know, over 1 million streams on you know, collectively over all your back catalog, and you look at how much you actually get paid for that, and it, you know, over 1 million streams, you can generate like $5 or $6, you know, and you think, fuck, you know, the guys that are actually, you know, we to put an album together. I mean, it's a lot of work from all the members of the band to write it, to record it. There's a lot of cost involved, you know, with studio time and all the rest. You think, fuck, there is no way bands can recoup that stuff anymore. And that's what's made it harder with all the COVID travel restrictions and venue restrictions and all that, because the only place a band can recoup their recording expenses and actually make any money is by touring. You know, and you have what's happened recently where it's touring's just shut down, and it's just like, fuck, musicians have got no way to actually make any money. So from that point of view, I fucking hate the streaming platforms. So it's a very double-edged sword for me. So yeah.
Okay. So well, Jason, the sad times arrived at this interview. I hope you enjoyed this one as I did, or like me. I'm a huge fan of Pyscroptic. I'm huge fan of Pyscroptic. I got all albums from you, so I did my pre-orders as I said. So perhaps do you want to add? Sorry. Congratulations for the new one. It's a great one as usually. You got the touch. You have one of the best bands around the world talking about the technical death metal. So
thank you.
Do you want to add something to your Latin American fans and Metalerium followers?
Well, keep an eye out, because hopefully we will be out in Latin America next year with any luck, if all goes to plan. So keep an eye out, and hopefully we will be making our debut trek out there next year with any luck, or maybe the year after, depending on what happens. And check out the new album.